What is up, the Lions fans? It's your boy Motor City Don P. We are back here once again, and you already know what time it is. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means? Well, that just means that when you see me in front of TV, one thing's for certain and three things are for sure. Number one, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. Number two, we came to give you stats, not none of that static. And number three, and perhaps the most important number of them all, number three, want to make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And you may be asking yourself, how? How, Don? How, Mr. P? Does one keep the Lions news pragmatic? Well, it's very simple. I'm glad you asked, and I'll tell you. I ain't keeping anything from you. I'm gonna give you the information that you need to get so that you will be in the know and you have known that you are in the know. You know? Smash that like button, subscribe, share with your peoples. And once you've done those things, you are indeed a person who has kept your Lions news pragmatic. And since sharing is caring, once you've shared this stream with your mothers, your brothers, your fathers, your sisters, your cousins, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your fathers, your mothers, cousins, you name it, you have indeed cared about those people. What up, though, everybody in the chat? What up, though, everybody in Detroit Lions fandom land, the Lions Nation, unite. You know what it is. Hashtag, if you know, you know, do the hashtag thing. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. And this is why, as a chat member, don't come in trying to control the show. Don't come in trying to control the narrative. Don't come in throwing hissy fits because the host ain't talking about exactly what you want to talk about in the moment that you want to talk about it, and that the host ain't saying exactly the thing that you want the host to say is the moment that you want him to say it, especially since you brought your ass in here 3 hours and 30 minutes into a 4-hour stream. Okay. Because there is one member of the chat, I'll say his name, I don't care, Paul Thomas, who came in here spouting all this racial BS about Kelvin Shepherd. And here we are today. We're going to be talking about some spicy meatballs, some speculation. We're going to speculate because Dan Campbell had said some stuff and he had said some things. And we're going to dive into that stuff and them things. And we might be talking about, dare I say, a replacement for one Kelvin Chappelle. You know what I'm talking about? But we're not talking about that because we're racist. We don't talk about Kelvin Shepherd because he's black. And if that's what you think, you're going to hate the candidates that we're going to talk about for the replacement because all of them black. But you know what I mean. Let me say what up, though, to the people in the chat. What up, though, Pierce Sargent? What up, though, Zach J? So, Lord have mercy. This damn cat, bro. We have a cat who is an indoor-outdoor cat and it hates being inside, but will beg you to bring him inside. And then 5 minutes later, he's begging to go back outside. My man don't know what he wants. Because he's gonna piss me off. So I'm gonna mute the mic and I'm gonna bring it back when I come back, and I'm gonna kick him out. Hold on 1 second. Now you want to act like you don't want to go outside. Anyway, uh, here and Dan on 97.1. Yep, we're gonna talk about that. What up, though, Zach J? Today you were happy. Will we hear the same from Melvin? Oh no, probably not. Probably not. I didn't hear the full interview, but I heard a clip where he seemed more worried about the last game than anything else. Which I mean, coach speak, right? Coach speak. There's some evaluation that you're gonna do. But who cares, bro? Seriously, who cares? You're currently 15th, and with some moving around, moving some furniture around, you lose and some other people win. You can get to 12th. You can be 2 outside of the top 10. So for a general manager that loves to pick in the 12th spot and loves to move around up and down or whatever, that's the sweet spot. You don't need to win. You don't need to win. Hell, the Atlanta Falcons helped you out last night, which, I didn't watch that game, but I should have. I just wasn't in the mood to watch no football yesterday, but I should have because I heard, Matty Boy stunk it up. Oh, he stunk it up. Oh, he threw 3 picks. Were any of them pick sixes? I don't know. Let me know. I heard the whole thing. He placed a lot of blame on himself and took accountability. That's what Dan Campbell does all the time. Is it falling on deaf ears though? Right? Are people rolling their eyes now when they hear it? Are they going, you know what? You say that every week. And you also say, we got a few things that we got to clean up. And he did say in the interview, we're talking about a few things now, and we're talking about 3-4 more wins. It's been a few things since week 1. We're in week 18, bro. It's been a few things since week 1. We are in week 18 currently. Okay, cool. I hope. Maybe it's possible. We're gonna talk about it. Appreciate you, Mr. Detroit City. Heard a lot of what I heard when AG struggled when MCDC talked about Shep. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's definitely. I mean, I don't even know why he's still there. The DL coach changed from Tyrell Williams to Casey Rogers. That 1 gap to now 2 gap is a foundational scheme change. Tyleek talked about adapting to this more anchored play style. Casey got to go. But we were told that Tyrell Williams was number 1 and Casey Rogers was number 2 as far as who is the best defensive line coach in the game. And that means Casey Rogers was supposed to be number 1. Why? Because Tyrell Williams didn't go to be a defensive line coach in New England. He went to be the defensive coordinator. So when you're the defensive coordinator, you're no longer a defensive line coach. That means that the number 2 is now de facto number 1, right? So we had the number 1 defensive line coach 2 years, 3. What was it? How many years was Tyrell Williams here? He was only here 1 year. So 2 years running, right? Okay. We've had 4 years, 4 defensive line coaches under MCDC. Casey Rogers schematically doesn't fit here. Vita Vea helps in Tampa Bay. He does. He helps a lot. Cats are finicky like that. I just want Kelvin to pick a new, more aggressive DL coach if I'm not too obvious. I'm not sure Flores would even leave Minnesota, and even then, he ain't choosing Detroit over Dallas. Why do you think that? If we're talking about leaving, we're talking about money. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about. Hold on. We talk about say, I love black people. Say, show me the money. Say it, Jerry. Show me the money. Show me the money. That's right, Jerry. Okay, that's what we're talking about. If you know, you know, hashtag. You know what I'm saying? Hashtag if you know, you know. We talking about lateral moves. It's got to be about the Daquan. It's got to be about Daquan. Today when I heard MCDC, I heard a tone. He wants accountability from the front office. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, you want accountability. I want $1 million. Okay, we want accountability from Brad Holmes. You know what? I think Brad Holmes would do a lot for his standing amongst the fan base who aren't the slappies to come with his hat in his hand offering apologies. Right? But I don't want to hear your apology. I want to see it. I synced it. I want to see it. You know what I'm saying? That's all I want to know. Going from 15-2 to possibly 8-9 ain't a good look either. Yeah, 9-8, 8-9 don't matter. At this point, again, I want the draft pick. What up, to Derek? All right, so if anybody doesn't know, Dan Campbell was on 97.1 The Ticket, and he was asked some questions about varying topics. He was asked about if you would think of moving on from Jared Goff because of his recent struggles. And Dan Campbell said, hell to the no. To the no, no, no. Hell no. To the no, no. Hell to the no. Okay, that's what Dan Campbell said about Jared Goff. And I don't have a problem with Dan Campbell saying that about Jared Goff, because as I've said before, Jared Goff does indeed need everything to be perfect around him. But see, when you make everything perfect around Jared Goff, he gives you results. He can get you to the playoffs. He can get you to the NFC Championship game. Hell, he can even get you to the Super Bowl. Can he win the Super Bowl? Jury's still out on that because he hasn't won one. But he's been there, and he almost got to a second one. But, you know, old stone hand Josh Reynolds. You know what I'm saying? Old fumbleitis Jahmyr Gibbs. Old missing tackles Anzalone and Derek Barnes. Old Kendall Vildor for some reason. You know, and that was the concerning thing. So Kendall Vildor was just the tip of the iceberg. That we didn't understand that old Brad Holmes couldn't field the secondary. Not an NFL caliber one. Okay, all right, cool. So I don't have a problem with that, but Bradley, Matthias, Jerome, Cornelius, Deshaun, Laquel, LaFonso, Alfonso, Jermaine, Tito, Michael, Jackson Holmes needs to make sure that he does his mother effing job. If Jared Goff needs an offensive line, then goddamn it, it's your job to get that man an offensive line. If he needs a 2-piece and a biscuit, Melvin, to perform, you need to run down to KFC and get him a 2-piece and a biscuit. If he needs Mountain Dew in his trailer before he goes on stage, well, you better go down there and get him a case of Mountain Dew so he ain't got no worries. If he goes through one can or one bottle and he needs another, he's got an entire case. It's your job. Bradley, it's your job. Okay. Here's the thing. I don't know if he's going to do his job. That's my only concern with Jared Goff. Jared Goff is a fine quarterback. Jared Goff needs the perfect weather, and he needs this, that, and the third thing. He needs all this stuff. Which is why when you went 15-2 and you played almost every game in a dome, and the Super Bowl was in a dome. That was your best shot. All the playoff games were going to be in a dome too, because divisional round, NFC Championship game, both of those things were going to be in Detroit because you were the number 1 seed. But it was about Kelvin Shepard. He talked about at all. And the reason I don't believe he dealt with the adversities of the injuries at all is because if you look at AG had to deal with the front 7. The front 7 is a lot more difficult to recover from. Aiden Hutchinson is hurt. Aleem McNeil is hurt. Who's going to get to the passer? How are you going to disrupt other teams' passing game? You're still able to stop the run because you doubled down on being able to stop the run. But how are you going to stop the pass? When Aiden Hutchinson is hurt, when Aleem McNeil is hurt, when Alex Anzalone is hurt, when Derek Barnes is hurt. And however are you going to stop the pass when Marcus Davenport is hurt? By that metric, you never can stop the pass. Right? But our defense wasn't the reason that we lost to Washington. And our defense down the stretch with AG never looked like this. Never looked like this. And as I said, he dealt with the front 7. Kelvin Shepard dealt with the back 4. Couldn't get any pressure. Couldn't stop the run. Couldn't do anything. Defense fell apart. Now, if you're a defensive coordinator and you say, hey, somebody comes and asks you, they say, hey, man, we need to take one of your units. Now, we can take somebody from the front 7 or we can take somebody from the back 4. What you want? I think I'm just going to say 9 out of 10, but it's probably 10 out of 10. Defensive coordinators would say, I want you to take the back 4. Because if I can get pressure on my quarterbacks that I'm facing, if I can stop the run, then the back 4 is a luxury at that point. Hey, I don't have the back 4. Hey, the back 4 is weak because now I got the Legion of whom, but I don't really need them. Yeah, they're going to get burnt back there for sure if we let them get there. If we got the front 4, we got the middle 3. If the middle 3 can cover, then that medium intermediate stuff, we still can come up and do something with that too. All of this is from the front 7. So what Dan Campbell said, he let it slip now. He let it slip that after a game, 24 hours. And he didn't say how many games. He just said, have I thought about it after the game for 24 hours? He didn't say how many games. He didn't say how many times. He didn't say how many 24-hour time periods that he thought about replacing Kelvin Shepard. Now, anybody with a set of eyes could see that the defense wasn't good. Anybody with a set of defense was good was when, not even when everyone was healthy. We had the Legion of Whom, and everybody thought, oh, Tampa Bay, and oh, blah, blah. The league hasn't wrapped up the season yet, right? Because the playoffs haven't started yet, and we're talking about week 18 that we're going into right now. So we don't know what will happen with Brian Flores. Brian Flores has been spoken about. Because if you're not speaking glowingly about Brian Flores, you're probably living under a rock. You're probably a bigot. You're probably something. But it is not an evaluator of coaching talent. It is not as an evaluator of a football mind. If you're talking about Brian Flores other than glowingly. So here's the thing. Brian Flores is going to have a lot of suitors for defense. Unfortunately, what happened with him suing the Dolphins and all this other stuff, it's going to be difficult. I just want him out of Minnesota. And I'm going to be a Bears fan for a minute here. Not that I'm going to root for the Chicago Bears. Okay. But remember what the Bears fans were doing all last year? Begging Ben Johnson, Osama Ben Johnson, to come and save their franchise and be their coach. Remember when they were doing that? Well, here's the thing. Brian Flores, please come to Detroit and save our defense. Please. Right? Because here's the thing. The writing's on the wall for you, coach. Your contract is up. They haven't re-signed you yet. They let you get to the end of your contract, coach. That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful. Brian Flores is a man. He strikes me as a man that doesn't take disrespect kindly. How they gonna let? Do you know what you bring to that defense? You are that defense, coach. Your scheme is that defense. Right? The Minnesota Vikings would be nothing without you, coach. Nothing. You know why? They ain't got what they got on offense. What they got on offense? Oh, sure, they got the Sons of Minnesota, Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, but they ain't even got no quarterback. They can't get the ball to them three players. And you kept this team afloat, bro. Without you, they'd be 2-14, bro. Right now, heading to a 2-15 season. And I don't know what two they would have won. They definitely wouldn't have been. They definitely wouldn't have been the two against the Lions. Because if they would have had like Mike Zimmer back there, he wouldn't have been able to do that to us. Not this year. It's disrespect, coach. You shouldn't take that Lion down. How could they let you get to the end of your contract and then actually play out the end? Like you coached out the end of your contract. They let you into this as a lame duck, coach. A lame duck. And as I said, the writing is on the wall about the length of the distance of where they can go to. They're limited, coach. They don't have a quarterback. And they're not the type that I don't think they're the type to be the defense first, but no offense. Right? It's not Houston. You know, Houston don't have a lot of offense, but I don't like to say this about CJ Stroud because of where he went to school, but I mean, he's better than JJ McCarthy. He's better than a lot of quarterbacks. Is he enough by himself? Is he dynamic enough? No, he's not a Josh Allen. He's not a Lamar Jackson. He's not one of these guys. But you don't even have that. You don't even have a CJ Stroud. So really, you can stay in Minnesota if they offer you a contract, which they'd be foolish not to. You can stay in Minnesota and continue to think that you're going to beat the Lions, but at the same time, you got to understand, old Mike McDaniels from your old stomping ground might get fired, and if he gets fired, he needs to be, hey, get him on speed dial, start negotiating contract with him for the Detroit Lions, right? Brian Flores, come to the D, man. You're welcome. You're welcome. If you want to, if you want a Super Bowl, if you want a Super Bowl, you come to Detroit and lead this defense to heights it's never seen before. And I can promise you, we'll get to the Super Bowl, bro. Because all we need is an offensive coordinator. We got all the pieces except for the offensive line. You know, we need to change some things up with that. And then look, if you come to Detroit, then you can shape and mold some things because we got a lot of free agents, bro. We got a lot of free agents. You can be like, look, man, I need this piece, that piece, and the third piece. You can bring some guys from Minnesota. We'll swap out, Alex Anzalone for Andrew Van Ginkel. We'll do that, even though he's under contract for I think another year in Minnesota, or maybe he's not. Maybe it was just a 2-year deal. Bring him with you. Bring him and whoever else you want to bring with you. Just leave Byron Murphy in Minnesota. Let me see what y'all got before I get to the other candidates that we were going to talk about today. A 500 team, right? We all saw it. Yeah, but we're 500 now. You can't be 500 to end the. All right, but Osama bin Johnson needs to lose. I really don't care about Osama right now. This is about Detroit. He's no longer in Detroit. We put the 52 on him in week 2. We got our get back, whatever. We trying to get draft picks because we know we don't have third rounders. Bradley squandered those. So we gotta, whatever I constantly said that Goff has that proves he can't be moved. A no trade contract clause. 2023 was all on old gambling Dan. I mean, we can say that, but we had the money badger, remember? And what if you take the kick and he misses? Because that's the thing that he didn't trust Michael Badgley. He trusts Jake Bates. He didn't trust Michael Badgley. What is your thoughts about Lions losing the Vikings game in a terrible way? I mean, we talked about that in ad nauseum. Yeah. I saw something tonight. Goff set up a meeting with Lions management. So Goff is willing to deal. Brad, do your job, Melvin. He set up a meeting with Lions management for what? For what? What is the meeting for? Can anyone else hear him? Y'all should be able to hear me, bro. It ain't went out. Wait, I see the levels right now, and I see the levels in front of me. We're not doing that again. Nope. How is the mic out? What the frick? Can y'all hear me now? I'm sure you can. Oh, Lord have mercy. But I'm looking at, I see when did it, well, tell me when it came back in. Deshea Thompson, yeah. bro. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it going out because it's I don't think he'll land one. If the Vikings were to get Lamar, we'd be cooked. You know what? I don't think draft day is judgment day. I think the entire off season is judgment day because if Brad simply sticks to drafts, then we're still screwed because he hasn't learned that you need. If he's going to continue to butter his bread in the draft and act like free agency doesn't matter and act like nothing matters, trades, nothing else matters, then no, I don't want to see it. It's got to go. We got to stop. Oh, we already knew he was going to restructure his deal. That was predetermined. That was agreed on when he signed the contract. Well, nobody about to let no $69 million cap hit come through. One, blame Brad Holmes. What did he do to make the team better? I love when someone comes in and tells me what my takes need to be. and that's been my take all along. Okay. It went out for a second. I don't know how. Okay. If it's only going out periodically, then it's all good. We all want Max Crosby, but we will end up with another PS edge rusher we fall in love with in the UDFAs. That was another question that Dan Campbell was asked if they fell in love with too many of their players, and he said no. But I mean, how do you talk to a man who's blinded by love? You know what I mean? Like they love their players far too much. They trust in them far too much. That's where the whole "we're good" thing came from. When we're talking about Zadarius Smith, we're good. Nah, coach, we're good, and we're going to the Philadelphia Eagles, which he didn't want to go to, and then he retired. It was right when you started talking about Flores, the mic went out. How long did it go out for? Uh, Johnny says, hear you loud and clear. Mike is fine. Mike is good. What up, though? Brent DeWitt. Drafts are hit and miss. Good coaching builds dynasties, get better coaches. Well, you need to get a better offensive line. That's for sure. But the coaching staff is we're literally talking about bringing in Brian Flores. I don't understand. He needs to learn both. Yes, he does. Brett is 15 seconds. All right. 15 seconds not bad. Y'all heard what I said. All right. So Brian Flores was we all know who has done a fantastic job on the defense. The only reason, and I'm gonna tell you guys this, the only reason it looked so easy when it was Osama bin Johnson is because Osama bin Johnson was fired. Not fired, he was let go. He wasn't retained. When Brian Flores came in to Miami, Osama bin Johnson was there on the staff already. Brian Flores already had his people. He didn't retain Osama bin Johnson. Osama bin Johnson had a personal vendetta against Brian Flores. That's why it looked so easy every time. But it didn't always look easy. Most of those games were close. Okay? Most of those games against the Minnesota Vikings were close. Yes, maybe, we carved up their defense or whatever, but they were close games. It was on Lions Talk Live. Goff could reduce his salary and cap hit by 20 million next year, 15 to 20 the year after, to trade for a player option in 2028. The cap hit can be reduced by much more than 20 million. Right? Just depending on how they handle it. Yeah. So 20 million is I don't want to say the low end, but you can get much higher than 20 million. Well, here's the thing that you can't do as an NFL head coach. You can't get to the podium and throw your general manager under the bus. It's called decorum, right? When you don't follow the rules of the NFL, when you don't play the game, when you don't have the professionalism in front of the camera that you're supposed to have, you get Brian Flores. Now, Brian Flores didn't do anything necessarily. He said some things in the media, but the fact that he sued the NFL is the problem. That's why he's not a head coach. Again, we can't trade Goff because he has a no trade clause. We're waiting to see, and we're going to see next week when he addresses the media. But he better be getting ready to take accountability. Yes, decorum. Decorum is your word of the day with Motor City Don P. He does have professionalism, but the way in which he calls out reporters is professional, but it's also arrogant. So two things can be true. Nobody else does that. Nobody else goes and pulls receipts. And we wouldn't have a problem with Melvin pulling receipts if we had won a Super Bowl. This is the problem that we have. He's pulling receipts and he has won nothing. All right. The next candidate that we want to talk about is one that we're very familiar with. One who's very familiar with Casey Rogers. And one who, if he were to be fired, which if they lose the NFC South, they will not go to the playoffs because they have a putrid record. I think they're currently 7-9, are they? Or are they 7-9? I feel like they are. I feel like the Bucks and the Panthers are both 7-9. I could be wrong. But if the Bucks move on from Todd Bowles, which is something that they really could do, because you've got all these weapons who are generally injured, but you got Baker Mayfield, you got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin, you got Emeka Egbuka, you got Bucky. I always want to call him Bucky Brooks. What's his name? Bucky. Because once I get Bucky Brooks in my head, I can't see the other thing. What's his name? Bucky of the Bucks. Bucky Irving. There you go. Thank you, Zach. Okay. You got Bucky Irving, you got Rachaad White, you got a decent O-line, you got obviously great players on defense. But you win 7 games, 7, 8, 9 games consistently every year. If he finishes 7-10, you gotta fire him, man. You gotta fire him. And if you fire him, there'll be a very, very soft landing place in Detroit. Hey, Dan Campbell, Todd Bowles, boys. They're boys. They like each other. Got a good relationship. Would work well together. Todd Bowles, very, very good defensive coordinator. Todd Bowles, originator of Brian Flores' scheme. Brian Flores is just a lot more blitz heavy than Todd Bowles, but they have very similar. They have very similar schemes. Their seams are similar. Their seams are similar, or their schemes are similar. As I said, Brian Flores just blitzes a whole lot more. What if Todd Bowles brought pressure every play? Todd Bowles is very exotic in his blitzes. He's very exotic in his coverage. He has a very exotic defense. It may be better to get Todd Bowles than it is to get Brian Flores because his defense is more well-rounded. Brian Flores is going to send the pressure. He is going to heat you up. Right? And then you're going to have games where you get 8-9 sacks. But then you're also going to have games against quarterbacks that know how to beat the blitz. So it could be feast or famine. Now, I don't want to say famine. I don't think with a defense like Brian Flores, you're going to get absolute famine. I don't think you're going to get 40, 50 points hung on you. Right? So Todd Bowles would be maybe even a better choice. Now, Todd Bowles is older. Does he want to be a defensive coordinator again? I mean, if you want to keep working, does he want to keep working? What is the likelihood of Todd Bowles getting fired? I think it's very likely. Because even if you win, now I'm not saying he's going to get fired regardless. Okay? I'm not saying that. At some point, like, look, the message is getting stale with Mike Tomlin, right? Mike Tomlin never had a losing season, won't have one this year. Get to the playoffs, don't win a playoff game. I think that's happened the last 6-7 years. Okay? You don't win a playoff game. You get to the playoffs, but you can't win. The Bucs winning 7, 8, 9 games a year and then getting to the playoffs. So I think the likelihood is that Todd Bowles will not be the Bucs head coach very soon. And I think if they lose to the Panthers in week 18, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Because you can't really argue with division titles, but you can argue with, man, if the rest of our division would just get their heads out of their asses. Like if the Atlanta Falcons would just get their heads out of their asses. They could run that division easily. They got the talent. But somehow it's now the Panthers. And the Panthers aren't a great team either. Again, both of these teams I think have the same record, 7-9. Or 8-8, whatever it may be. Todd Bowles, come on down. You are the next contestant on Who Wants to Be the Detroit Lions' new defensive coordinator. You don't get the whole arrogance angle. Well, here's the arrogance angle. Taylor May, I'll break it down for you. Gaslighting the fans. This is arrogance. How did he gaslight the fans? Well, he said the fans are just mad because Aiden Hutchinson is so good, and they're just like, why don't you just draft another one? Talking to us like we're stupid. No one asked you to draft another Aiden Hutchinson. We asked you to get someone competent on the other side, and that's been the entire thing that we've been asking you for years. We're asking you to stop signing guys like Marcus Davenport. We're asking you to say, hey, when you get a guy like James Houston who got 7 sacks or 8 sacks in 7 games, to keep him on the roster. We're asking you not to go get guys like El-Quadin Muhammad, who, fortunately for us, stepped up and had 10 sacks this year, but has never done that in his career before, was 31 years old and on his couch. We're asking you to stop getting Jamal Adams out of retirement and trying to turn him from a safety to a linebacker while he's sitting on his couch. He wasn't retired, actually. He just got cut. We're asking you to stop giving Dan Campbell players who are on vet squad and acting like this whole 69-man roster crap makes any sense. You do not have a 69-man roster while everyone else has a 53. You have a 53, just like every other team in the NFL. The whole thing that they did this offseason, which they tried to act like it was so cute. Oh, we just had 50 guys make the roster. We didn't have 53. Then you failed. If you couldn't find 3 more guys to make the roster, and then you want to sit up there in a press conference with Ray Agnew and talk about Tyus Wheat and what was it, Tyrus Wheat and Tyus Lacey? Like that we're just supposed to make this big freaking impact, and how we were so fortunate to get them because we couldn't field a 53-man roster? That's arrogance. Acting like you can take a 3rd-round pick, trick it off for a player that wouldn't be drafted, Broderick Martin. For a player that probably wouldn't be drafted, Manu. Not before the 6th or 7th round. To sit there and say, well, y'all been on my ass. I don't know. 6th round. Is that good enough? For a player that didn't play a damn snap the entire season, that's arrogance. For you to sit there and freaking parade around the fact that you had 7 rounds, and in the same draft that you threw away 3 3rd-round picks for a wide receiver, you waited until the 6th round to draft anybody on the edge, and he didn't play the entire, not even that he didn't play, not even that he was a healthy scratch. My man was on the practice squad. And then you have the nerve to go to the podium and go, 6th round. I don't know. 6th round. That's arrogant. To sit there and say, well, yeah, I remember you. You said I shouldn't draft a running back. How'd that work out? Yeah, I remember you. Blah, 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 blah. Arguing with reporters. You know who else we had a problem arguing with reporters? Fatty Matty Patty. Remember when the reporter, stop slouching, sit up straight. Have some respect for the process. Oh, we thought he was a complete tool. Brad Holmes goes back and forth with media members all the time and has won nothing. So this is the arrogance angle. This is why we say he's arrogant. Because he thinks he knows better than everyone else. And you can't tell me. He sits there and talks to you about it being a collaborative effort. Brother, you can't tell me that everybody in that building thought Broderick Martin was the best pick. Trading a third round pick, like using a third round pick on a guy that wasn't going to be drafted, everybody in that room thought it. All of y'all should be fired. Dan Campbell should be fired. Brad Holmes should be fired. Chris Spielman should be fired. Everybody involved in picking Broderick Martin as a consensus third round pick should be fired. We talked about people that got picked after freaking Hendon Hooker. After we made Hendon Hooker the 5th pick of the 3rd round, Bryant Young and Colby Turner, Demarion Overshown, Deion Henley. These are people that are starters on their teams right now. Bryant Young and Colby Turner are starters on the same team. So you pass on all of those players by picking Hendon Hooker, and then your next reaction was to pick Broderick freaking Martin. That's arrogance, tailor-made. That's the arrogance angle. Bro, that is college. I don't. We just said the problem with Shep is that he was a first-time rookie defensive coordinator. And now you want us to go and grab a guy from college instead of getting guys who may be available. And these guys that I mentioned, Brian Flores and Todd Bowles. While I'm talking about Brian Flores and Todd Bowles, you're talking to me about a dude from college. I don't know. The fastest way for a no trade clause to be gotten rid of is the player waive it. It's an agreement that happens sometimes. When the player really knows that you don't want them and then they don't want to be there anymore. So they waive their no trade clause and you can trade them. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Chefs in the kitchen. We're talking about defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators whose job it is to run the offense and to run the defense. That's all we're talking about. Sheila, bring in someone with an ongoing lawsuit against the NFL. He's a defensive coordinator. He works as a defensive coordinator. That's why he's not getting a head coaching job. Say we go the 9-8. That is 24 wins and 10 losses in 2 years time. Okay, but we don't want to go to 9-8. We want to go 8-9. We want a better draft pick. Brad Holmes is the EVP and GM for the Detroit Lions Football Club, not an event day janitor at Ford Field. What does that mean? What does that mean? Oh, Lord have mercy. You did okay. Okay, cool. He lost. He's looking good for Weight Watchers. Maybe he'll have a job as a Weight Watchers model. It looks like they will, unless they have injuries that could be long term. After looking up Breakstraw's college injury history, are we drafting the most injured player available? I told y'all about Ennis Rakestraw. I told y'all when the draft gurus were mocking Ennis Rakestraw in the first round to the Detroit Lions, I was not having it at all. Also, Mock draft situation going well. Get your mailbag questions in. Mailbag, mailbag. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they reading you? Mailbag, mailbag. Snickers is mailbag. Get your mailbag questions in. Get them in. Bask in it. All right, I'll take a few. That's true. Especially if they were born 75 years ago. Nah, if they were born 75 years ago, they would have seen the championship. They were seeing quite a few. Yeah, the owner is not. She's not gonna fire Brad. And to be honest with you, I'm not even asking you to fire Brad. I'm asking Brad to understand there are 3 phases of roster building. It's not just one, which is the draft. You have to do well in all 3 phases if you want to win a Super Bowl. You can't draft your way to a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. You know? And you can't be so discriminatory that you'll bring in a person for a 1-year rental and then just cast them aside because they played well for your team. They fit in well with your culture, but you didn't draft them. So Carlton Davis, it's time for you to go. But he's not. And he proved to you that he wasn't. It doesn't matter what size you are. You are trash. They already said they're not going to fire AG. There was no expectation for AG. Didn't have a quarterback. They got him Justin Fields. You can't have a coach come into an organization unless like there was the whole Mike Vrabel, Gerard Mayo thing, right? You can't have a head coach, especially a first time head coach, come into an organization which is riddled with turmoil. They wanted him to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. He got rid of Aaron Rodgers. Then he didn't have a quarterback. Right? Because the previous coach let Aaron Rodgers run things. And you know what Aaron Rodgers does to teams. Right? It's just like LeBum. When he gets his hands on a team and then he leaves the team, look what happens to the team. So you can't expect that. There were no expectations for AG in New York. The Raiders? I think you're just trolling me. I think you're trolling me. I think that's what's happening. Flores settles. Is he head coach again? I don't know, bro. I don't know how long the blackball is going to last, but he's definitely been blackballed. You got to put some respect on the man's name. When does Kyle Allen get a look on Sunday versus the Bears? I hope for the entire game. I hope for the entire game. 65 and only seen 2 NFC championship games. Yeah, but 75, you would have seen a championship. You would have seen a championship. It wouldn't have been called a Super Bowl, but it would have been called a championship. Mailbag, I heard CJ Gardner Johnson says he's from Al Harris University the other night. When will the Lions have a similar school set up through Deshae Townsend? We won't. We won't. We won't. Al Harris was a dog when he was in the NFL. Deshae Townsend was good, right? But it wasn't a dog. So, mailbag, would you bring Tanner back here to run the offense? No, because I don't know what he can do. He didn't have a quarterback. The offense was terrible in New York. I don't know what his abilities are. And we just did that with Shep. So to run the offense, nah, not a chance. If I said that, then we're not learning. Mailbag, last season the Bears had some chick working with the running backs. This year I see Eric Bieniemy on the sidelines. What are any similarities between the Bears ground game and the Lions? There is no similarity. The Bears ground game is good. The Lions ground game is trash. Usama bin Johnson took it with him. That's it. I'm not. I also think Hooker. Okay. All right. Brother, Caleb Witt. Okay, look, I'm gonna tell y'all this one last time. Okay, because I know you're new. You're new here, and I've seen you. I haven't seen you around from before. Last year, when the Bears drafted Caleb Williams, I said this. Number one, I didn't watch Caleb Williams play in college, but someone on YouTube made a video of every throw and run he had in his senior year. I watched the whole video. It took me an hour and some change to watch it, okay, because it was that long. I said the thing I see with Caleb Williams is that he loves hero ball. He has the ability to be great. But the problem is he falls in love with hero ball. That's to his detriment. He runs around all day long trying to make a play, and he doesn't know when to let the play die. That's why he gets sacked so much. That's why he turns the ball over so much. Okay? I said in college, or I said in the NFL, he will not be able to do that stuff. And if he has a coach like Matt Eberflus, who cannot coach the hero ball love and worship out of him, he will not be good in the NFL. But if he gets a coach who can curtail that and let him do it when it's necessary, but also get him not to rely on it, he will be good in this league for many years. Now you can ask the chat if I said those things, because the regulars know I did. I never made that assessment about Hendon Hooker. Everybody that says Hendon Hooker would have won the Heisman if he didn't get injured, Gino Torretta won the Heisman. He was never a quarterback in the NFL. Charlie Ward won the Heisman, and then he went to play basketball with the New York Knicks. We had a coach. He went to Oh Hell No State. Troy Smith. Troy Smith won the Heisman. Didn't do a damn thing in the NFL. Did Quincy Carter win the Heisman with Georgia? And then went to the Cowboys and didn't do a damn thing. Lots of players come out of college at the quarterback position and aren't ready to be NFL quarterbacks. Caleb Williams had the skill set to be an NFL quarterback. That's why they drafted him number 1 overall. But Caleb Williams had to have that NFL quarterback skill set developed, because the hero ball thing was very detrimental. Matt Eberflus couldn't do it. Usama bin Johnson can. And that's why you've seen his improvement this season. All right. My preference is Daboll, but thought I'd ask. Mine would be Mike McDaniel if he gets fired. Why? Here's the thing. Running game. Miami has a good running game because Mike McDaniels learned from Kyle Shanahan. Anybody learning from Kyle Shanahan? I take them as my offensive coordinator because running game. And in Detroit, if we get the run game going, then we can get the play action game going. And Jared Goff is what, top 3 play action quarterback since he's been in Detroit? There were a couple years in a row, I think last year and the year before, where he was the number 1 play action quarterback in the NFL for the entire season. Jared Goff, a guy that's 70% accurate. You get the run game going and the play action, it's a wrap. Then this offense looks like a real number 1 offense. Not just, we're the number 1 scoring offense because we put up 52 against this ass team, 44 against this ass team, 40 against this ass team. But when we go against a top 10, top 15 defense, we ain't putting up nothing but 15, 17, 13, 6. Mike McDaniel, a realistic possibility for OC if he gets canned? I just answered that one. Now, is he realistic? It's just about money at that point. Right? Look, he had Tua. He gets to work with Jared Goff, a guy that we've seen with Osama bin Johnson thrive. So, is Jared Goff an attractive quarterback to come and work with? Yeah. He's a top 3 quarterback. Just get him an offensive line. That's all. The weapons are there. Get him an offensive line. Protect him. Ross, though. Ross is one of those owners. Yeah, I did say that. Okay, thank you. TaylorMade. I would like you to explain to me how NFL contracts work. Because if you think that Jared Goff's contract is untradeable, I've got some beachfront property I'd like to sell you in Alaska. Brian Daboll would probably be, he's on my list, but he's not the top on my list. We'll have to see who's available. Andre Ware won a Heisman too. Ass cheeks. Complete cheeks. Didn't Terrell Pryor win the Heisman? Did he? He might have. And he was a wide receiver in the NFL. We're talking about highlight tapes. Highlight tapes are always awesome. They're highlights. I do this every day. Did Hendon Hooker even look in the preseason? Did he even look good running the ball? Did I not comment on this? I mean, look, I do this every day, bro. I do this every day. Can the no trade clause be waived? Does the player who has the no trade clause, does he have the ability to waive it? I just want to know. All righty. Guys, my show starts at 7:15 p.m. If you can make it, please make it. Uh, yes, I work for the Lions, and I am a Brad Holmes and a Dan Campbell slappy, and I am a Jared Goff slappy, and I never say anything interesting. I never say anything negative about the team, ever. Brad Holmes can do no wrong. Dan Campbell can do no wrong. Jared Goff can do no wrong. Um, that about covers it, I guess. That about covers it. I think the answer is yes. He has the ability to waive the no trade clause. Okay, right? He does. All right. And people with no trade clauses get traded all the time. It happens. Okay, because the person with the no trade clause can become unhappy with the situation. The reason that Goff has a no trade clause is because they didn't feel the need to trade Goff. So they allowed that in his contract. If they thought that they were going to have to move off of him, then they wouldn't have put it in his contract. Now, if they have a serious sit down conversation that says, look, Jared, this ain't going to work, man. This ain't going to work. But we wanted to come to you and tell you this. And Jared has the ability to waive it. Yep. I also do that. We're talking about football. We're talking about things that can be proven. We're talking about things that are in black and white. We're talking about contracts. You're talking to me about scripts. We're talking about contracts that have been moved. You're telling me that these type of contracts can't be moved. I'm telling you water is wet. You're telling me water is dry. So whatever it is that you think about me, that's it. I do it. You're welcome to stay or you're welcome to go. It's up to you. Oh my goodness. I'm a oh. I'm a Davenport slappy, meaning if I see Davenport on my team next year, I'm gonna have to start slapping our front office. Money can also move a no trade. Taylor made. So what you're doing is you're speaking truth. And this guy doesn't want to hear truth. He wants to hear conspiracy theories. So if I can find a tinfoil hat, I'll put it on and then we could talk about conspiracy theories. Otherwise, we're talking about real life NFL situations, right? So I don't know. Restructuring means waiving the no trade clause. It doesn't mean that. No. Restructuring just means moving money. For example, you take a $69 million cap hit and you change that into a signing bonus. And the vast majority of it comes off of your books because the signing bonus is immediate. Good question though. But no, it doesn't mean you have to waive your no trade clause. Can we talk about practice? We talk about practice. Practice squad players, professional practice players. No restructuring doesn't mean getting rid of the no trade clause, right? No, you're not getting to me. As I said, you can stay or you can go. It doesn't matter to me. If you stay, if you go, it will be trouble. If you stay, it will be double. You can stay or you can go. You know what I mean? Goff is not approving a trade to the Raiders, Browns, or Jets. Stop it. Who said anything about that? My background is in my bio, if that helps anyone. I don't think he's going to read your bio, bro. He's here to troll. It's okay. It's okay. And we appreciate your subscription. All right, y'all. We're going to go ahead and get up out of here. We'll be back tomorrow. Listen, I really don't think that I'm gonna preview this game coming up for the Bears. I really don't think I'm gonna do it. It could be something on a Friday where I don't care. I don't care. So I don't want the Lions to win the game. I I don't care. I'd rather they lose the game, so that they can get a better draft pick, because it's about fixing the team. It's about fixing this offensive line. It's about getting protection for our quarterback who needs to be protected. I don't care about a win over Osama bin Johnson. Pay the due and troll. No problem. At least you're honest. Yeah, that's all I am. You know what I'm saying? I can't be no other way. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie to you. You know what I'm saying? I fly to you before I lie to you. Anyway, once again, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. We came to give you stats, not none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. Appreciate y'all, new and old. But if you're new, just know that I know. Got it. We out. Peace.